Excuse me for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
You believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Welcome to the show. Andrew Zimmel, the Sports Prez, host as always. Thank you for checking in. Valentine's Day, so if you haven't got your special somebody something yet, send them this podcast link. People who have been listening to the podcast have given us really good reviews. We are everywhere that you can listen to podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, and a bunch of other great podcast streaming and listening devices. So if you haven't tuned in, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Jump on it. So this is surprising to me that we have not done back-to-back NBA shows this season. And we're coming into the All-Star break. And I think it's two parts. One part is that this is the first time that we're getting to do a daily podcast. This is the first time that I'm getting to control the content that I'm putting out. This is the first time that I don't feel like I need to have a very super strict schedule with what I talk about and when I talk about it. So there's some days, like we did earlier this week, we had Alexander Haynes come on and give us a political update, break down the primaries for us, break down the coronavirus, give us a China update. That guy is wicked smart. The fact that we can kind of do that, but also can do college football, but also can do really cool interviews for you guys, but also we have a really good Valentine's Day podcast, which is kind of funny, with my buddy Jacob that you should listen to as well. The fact that we got to do all that type of stuff is really cool to me. So it's weird that we haven't done back-to-back NBA shows, though, and that's what we're doing today, is I'm talking a little bit more NBA, and then I'm going to end the podcast with some other kind of personal news-ish type stuff. But you're going to want to listen to this NBA stuff, because I think it's pretty good. So let's talk about the title favorites. NBA All-Star Weekend, it's 1 degree in Chicago. Little side tangent here. If you're going to have an NBA All-Star game, why are you doing it in Toronto, New York, Boston, Chicago? It doesn't make sense to me. Why are you going to cities that you have to be either bundled up to be in or you can't enjoy because it's so freaking cold? Why are you going to Chicago in February? Basketball? What are you doing? Especially if it would be one thing if it was hockey and the furthest team south was in like Vegas, I guess. I guess that's, or San Jose, I guess, is the furthest southern city in the NHL. But that's a sport that you kind of assume or you kind of put together with being cold. Because the majority of the good teams in hockey are in northern cities and cities that are cold even in summer, okay? Or cold to the majority of us even in summer. But basketball, I get it. It's an indoor sport, but it also is an outdoor sport because it's played all the way into June. And I will never forget the shots of Cleveland and Golden State. Middle of June, people are just wearing basketball jerseys and shorts. And girls are wearing, Daisy Dukes and cut-off Kyrie jerseys, okay? It doesn't make sense. Why are you doing your NBA All-Star game in Chicago when cities like Houston, San Antonio, Miami, and LA exist? It doesn't make sense, to me at least. I don't know what they're doing. But going into the All-Star break, we got to talk about title favorites. So Vegas has the title favorites out. The Lakers and Bucks lead. The Lakers are 9-5 odds to win it, to win the NBA title. Yes, the Bucks are 11-4 odds. Clippers are 13-4. Rockets are 12-1. Raptors are 20-1. Celtics are 21. Heat are 20-1. Nuggets are 20-1. Mavericks are 25-1. 76ers are 25-1, and Jazz are 30-1. So let's talk about that. And we can break it up into two sections very easily and very quickly. There are 4 teams right now competing for an NBA title according to Vegas. It's the Lakers, the Bucks, the Clippers, and the Rockets. There is something very wrong with that to me because I would not consider the Houston Rockets a title contending team. I have watched them the majority of the season. I am like the majority of Americans in that I don't love watching them play basketball. Getting rid of Clint Capella does not make any sense to me. They've had a couple of good games since he left, but if you're a basketball fan, if you're somebody that watches basketball the way that I think a lot of you guys do that listen to the podcast, if you watch the games, you'll notice something, that there are still teams in this league that have centers and big men that you have to play defense on and that make a big, big difference in games. I will say this about last year's NBA Finals. Kevin Looney played a very big role in last year's NBA Finals. He's a center. Marc Gasol played a very big role in the title-winning Toronto Raptors. He is a dominant center, or was a dominant center, but he played very good in the playoffs. You look at teams like the Philadelphia 76ers, who had Joel Embiid, who we expect them to be title contenders because of how dominant their big man is. If Houston gets in a playoff series with Oklahoma City and Steven Adams, and they don't have a player who can match up against Steven Adams, I'm not saying that it's going to be Oklahoma City win, but I am saying it's going to be a very tough first round for them. Then you look at Utah, who wasn't able to get off Mike Conley, who I expected to have a better season than he's having, and he's really fallen apart to me. You can kind of see the wheels are falling off on his career, which is a shame because he was a very good NBA player when he was healthy. But Rudy Gobert, I think, is going to be a monster for them down low. I don't know how they're going to be able to defend him. And I know he's not a great offensive player, but if you're not playing against somebody who can body you up, and PJ Tucker is a very good player, but he's not going to be able to body up a 7-footer for a 7-game series. And then you look at the real title contenders, the Clippers and the Lakers, the Lakers have a trio of big men that can just rotate in and make chaos down low against Houston. And the Clippers don't have the size that I think that they want to have at this point. I think that they should have made a couple moves during the trade deadline. I already talked about it yesterday, how I didn't love the Marcus Morris signing, how I thought that he was more of a ball stopper than he was like an actual good player. He's a fine player for the Knicks or the Spurs. He's not going to work, I don't think, in L.A. I don't think that he's going to be the guy that can help you win a title. So if you do the top 5 teams that are in the title race right now, or top 4 teams, I should say, in the title race, I don't think the Houston Rockets should be 12-1. And if you're gambling on the Rockets at 12-1, I think you're dumb. I think that's a bad bet. That's a bad beat for you. The Raptors, on the other hand, at 20-1, I would hammer that. Because you look at the Bucks, who have both the Lopez brothers, who have not been having nearly the type of season I thought they would have. This feels like the Lopez brothers, their careers are almost like a bell curve to me. The beginning of their careers, before Brook Lopez clearly became the better Lopez brother and was an all-star, the beginning of their career, I thought they both were very similar type players. I thought Brook had a little bit better passing game. I thought he was a very more overall better player, but both of them very good defensive players to me. It feels like the bell curve is on the other end now, and that they're both kind of back on the same level of talent. I think Brook's a better shooter, but for the most part, they are both very versatile, usable big men. But something about Giannis, and he's the MVP this year to me. I think that he's had a dominant season. I think that he is, if not one of the 2 or 3 best players in the league. But there's just something about his game that I don't think is going to be able. I don't think he's going to be able to play at the level he needs to play at against a team like the Raptors, who, without Kawhi Leonard, are kind of on the same pace they were last year. And I get Kawhi didn't play all the games for the Raptors last year. I get that he did a lot of load management, and even in the playoffs, he was kind of banged up and was not nearly, even as dominant as he was, he could have been more dominant, I think, in a lot of people's minds. But Siakam has taken that step forward. He's an all-star starter. OG Anunoby is now healthy, and he's been able to play very well. Fred VanVleet has slowly kind of turned into that very good role player. He reminds me a lot of Patty Mills in that when he comes on the court and when he kind of fills in for Kyle Lowry, who would be like the Tony Parker in this situation, I guess, on some of those older Spurs teams, he comes in and he's a spark plug. He's a guy that can hit shots and make big shots when the money's down. I like the Raptors in the East. And the Celtics at 20-1 as well, I think that they're going to be a tougher team too, but they're still missing that big man down low. The 76ers at 25-1 feels like that's a sign that I think Vegas and I think that a lot of NBA fans kind of see the end coming for this team. And this is what's tough to me. What's tough to me is that when you talk about the most fun big guy, little guy combinations in the last couple years, okay, so you're thinking guard Kobe, guard Penny Hardaway, guard Tracy McGrady, big man Shaquille O'Neal both times, and Yao Ming, Dikembe Mutombo and Allen Iverson, but that relationship was a little bit different. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid probably are the least successful point guard center duo in a long time. And you could make the argument that they're probably two of the most talented big men. And I get it, like, you really can't compare Shaq and Joel Embiid. Shaquille O'Neal clearly more dominant even as a rookie, and when he was with the Lakers, very much more dominant than Joel Embiid has been. But I think that ceiling for Embiid is there. I think that he can kind of, if not get very close to as big of a deal as Shaq was in his prime. And I know that might be blasphemy, but I think that that's kind of where we have set the bar for him. And Simmons, his inability to score from outside is clearly a big deal. But there's been a lot of young players. This is only his third season. There's a lot of young players early in their career that could not score from outside. You're looking at guys like Jason Kidd. Iverson didn't have a knockdown three-point shot when he came in the league either. Kobe kind of struggled from outside before he figured it out. There's a lot of guys who struggled from outside before they figured out how to shoot the long ball. But the thing about all those guys that I mentioned and Ben Simmons is that they weren't afraid to let it go. They weren't afraid to shoot the shot when they had it. And Simmons, to this point, has not been able to take the shots when he needs to take the shots. So when you look at the title favorites that are put out right now, I think that it's very telling where the league is. And it's very telling, I think, where the standings are, too. As we go into the All-Star break, and we look at the teams that are in the lead, and we look at the teams that are out, Milwaukee, Toronto, Boston, Miami, Philadelphia at the 5, Indiana, Brooklyn, and Orlando would be your playoff teams if the playoffs started today. In the West, it's the Lakers, Nuggets, Clippers, Jazz, Rockets, Thunder, Mavericks, and Grizzlies, with about 4 games between the Trailblazers, the Spurs, and the Pelicans, and that 8 seed Grizzlies. If the playoffs started today, I would like the chances of Boston getting out of the first round. I'd like the chances of Toronto getting out of the first round. I'd love the chances of Milwaukee getting out of the first round. I think Orlando isn't going to be that team that makes it in the playoffs. I really do think that the Wizards are going to make a push with Bradley Beal. And if the Wizards make a push and they get into that 8 seed, Bradley Beal as a second or third team All-NBA guy, I don't think is out of the question. I think that that's a very possible spot for him to be. But that 4-5 would be Miami and Philadelphia. And to be completely honest with you, I would take Miami. Jimmy Butler has been a dog all season. That team is much, I think, better built. And if this is the last season that we see Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons playing together, I think we're going to look at this era for the 76ers as a failure. And they'll tank for a better roster spot. I think that that's smart money. I think that that's good math. I think that that has worked for some teams. But not to the extent of Philadelphia. And when we go back in the history books and we look at Sam Hinkie and we look at what he did, he said, okay, if I have more shots at the top 4, top 5 picks, there's more chance of me getting a generational superstar. You look at Michael Jordan, he was the 3rd overall pick. Okay? You look at guys that are the 3rd overall pick currently. Jason Tatum's another guy, and I know it's almost blasphemy to compare the two, but I'm just saying that you can get good players at 2, at 3, at 4, in these drafts. But I think that we're going to look at this as a failure. And you look at the Lakers, what they were trying to do, tanking, and they got Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle, and it didn't work. Okay? LeBron came, and then he traded all those pieces for Anthony Davis, and then they were able to kind of build a team, and Dwight Howard had a resurgence year, and JaVale McGee wasn't a complete joke, and Rondo has been bad, and Alex Caruso has been okay for him, but for the most part, it's the LeBron James show, and everybody's level of play is kind of taking up that next notch because of how dominant, how good he is, and how he's able to make great plays for his teammates. The Clippers, similarly, they traded away Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, they got some pieces for them, they got rid of DeAndre Jordan, but it wasn't until Kawhi and Paul George got there before it was like, oh no, this is a team that can compete for a title. So I think when we look at building through the draft, there's teams like the Spurs who were able to do it long-term, who had very good scouting, who were able to put pieces together. When you get that number one overall pick and a guy that's a generational superstar like Tim Duncan, you're able to build pieces around him, and that works for them, but you have to have a smart front office, and Philadelphia has proven, to me at least, not to have that. And them being 25-1 odds to win the title, I think is a very good showing of that. Let's talk about the Clippers, who lose to the Boston Celtics on Thursday night in 2 overtimes, 141-133. Now, is that a sign of it going into overtime? Is that a sign of things to come for this Clippers team? I have not been impressed by this Clippers team over the past 4 games. A loss to the Celtics, a loss to the 76ers, a win against one of the worst teams put together right now, the Cavs, a loss to the Timberwolves, and a win against Miami. That's your last 4 games for this team. So the win against Miami, I think, is a big deal. Like I mentioned, I like the way that roster is put together. The Timberwolves loss doesn't make a ton of sense to me. D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns kind of just outplayed the Clippers. But this loss tonight to the Celtics isn't, I don't think, a huge deal. I don't think that this is a game. I don't think that this is a let's not overreact type of game. But now they fall to 37-18. This is a team that we thought for sure was going to get to 55 wins. We thought maybe closer to 60. And I think that they still could be that team. I still think that they are, if not one of the best 2 teams in the Western Conference. But if you end up being the 3 seed and you're playing the 6 Oklahoma City, I don't think that that's a walk in the park. And there's only 4 games that separate Oklahoma City at 33 wins and LA Clippers at 37 wins. I'm just saying this. I think that the game for the Clippers that they're playing right now is, okay, when Kawhi is fully healthy and Paul George is at 85 to 90%, we are the best team in the league. We don't need to win the most games to have home court advantage, because the team that we're going to probably play in the Western Conference Finals plays in the same arena as us. It's the LA Lakers. So there's not really a ton of home court advantage when you look at it that way, when you split it that way. I fully anticipate this Clippers team to cruise out the second half of the season, or the last third of the season after this All-Star break, end up somewhere between 48 and 53 wins, beat about the 3 or 4 seed, and just beat whoever the team they play. In a perfect world for an NBA fan, here is how things shake out. You get LA at 1, the Lakers at 1, Portland finds a way to sneak in the playoffs as the 8th seed. I love Ja Morant, I love Memphis, I like what they're building over there, but I want to see Damian Lillard play LeBron James. Even if it's a 4-1 or 4-0 sweep, it would be a lot more fun, I think, in my mind at least, to watch Damian Lillard try to beat the Lakers by himself than it would be to watch Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies end up just getting mollywopped by the Lakers. In a perfect world, the Nuggets play the Mavs. I'll tell you why. Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis are going to expose Denver for the frauds that they are. Denver, to me, reminds me a lot of that Rockets team with James Harden and Dwight Howard, in that they are a very good regular season team. They're a team that will come into your favorite team's arena and play them very hard. Nikola Jokic will play them for 27 to 35 minutes a night, and the Nuggets will find a way to win. But in the playoffs, when your best player has to play 40, 48 minutes a night, Nikola Jokic is not healthy enough to be able to do that. We saw him against the Spurs last year. That when the chips are down and the pressure's on and he's having to play big minutes, he gets tired. And I think the Mavericks with Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis are going to be able to push the pace. I think they have good shooting. That is a round one upset that I would fully anticipate. Oklahoma City against the Clippers would be a ton of fun for numerous reasons. First off, you get Chris Paul in a different jersey going back to L.A., potentially beating the team that he played for about 6 seasons. Also, you get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming back, who I don't think the Clippers really wanted to trade. I don't think that they knew he was going to be this good. That is a very talented guard over there. I would love to see that matchup. And then Jazz versus the Rockets, which has turned into one of the better rivalries. I don't think a lot of people remember it, but the Jazz and the Rockets were rivals in the 90s with Akeem and Karl Malone. I would love to see that rivalry continue to go. Donovan Mitchell has been so-so this year. James Harden has been lights out. Russell Westbrook's been lights out. But I still think the Jazz have a better team, and I would be a lot more interested in seeing how the Rockets were going to be able to solve their on-the-court issues during a playoff series in the first round. Because if they don't get out of the first round, Mike D'Antoni's gone, Daryl Morey potentially is gone, Harden and or Westbrook potentially are gone via trade. I would be very intrigued in that playoff series. Last thing, because this is a little bit more of a personal thing that I wanted to touch on. And I don't want to jinx it. That's part of the thing, too, is that I don't want to jinx this because I think this would be really cool. So if you've been paying attention to the career path that we've been doing over here on this show, if you've been keeping up with the old show and what we did over there, you would know that our first love and the thing that we butter our bread with is college football. College football is the thing that we have been able to, I think, do better than a lot of other people. I know every person will say my college football podcast is better than everybody else's. There is 100 and something odd teams between Power 5 to Division 2. Every single team, every single college town has at least one podcast, maybe more. You look at UT, who has about, I want to say, 10 between average and below average college football podcasts focused on that team. So there is plenty of college football content. But you would know, if you've been keeping up with us, that the content that we've been putting out is very good. People have said that it's some of the best that they've heard. We had a ton of writers come on last year to talk about all the Power 5 teams. We're probably going to do that again this year, hopefully, knock on wood, because I had a lot of fun with that. Maybe not so many guests, maybe more of me breaking down the rosters, telling you what I've seen between the spring games that are going to be going on and the roster updates and talking to some of the beat writers that are around. Odds are we're going to do something similar to that. But there's this company called Believe. There's a podcast network. It's based in L.A., are based in California. They do a lot of really good content. And I had seen up a job posting. I kind of said, hey, I send in a lot of applications. That's something that, if you know me, if you've kept up with the work ethic we've put out here, that's something that I do, is I will apply to a ton of jobs at one time. Always on the grind, always on the hustle, always looking for the next place to make some bread, make some money. So I applied, got a good conversation going. There's the potential that we are going to be doing another podcast in addition to this one with a former LSU quarterback. Now, this is where it gets touch and go. We haven't been able to secure anything just yet, and I don't want to get anybody's hopes up because I know how much you look forward to the excellent content that comes out on this one. And I promise you that we're not going anywhere. We're continuing to do this daily podcast. We've done it for how many consecutive days? Doesn't even matter anymore because we've put out almost 50 podcasts in that time. And we're continuing to get really good numbers, and you guys continue to really support the podcast and support the show. And that's really what all we look for, is for you guys to have the content and the entertainment that you so desperately crave, because you're not getting it from any of the other big media sites. You're not getting it from anywhere else. When you tune into this podcast, you get authenticity, you get analysis, you get a good breakdown, and you get in my opinion, some of the best sports talk there is. So there is potential that you will get more LSU Tiger-based content in the future, not on so much this channel, but some other channels. So I'm just letting you know that there is the chance that this happens. Again, I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm letting you know that that is what's in the works on our end. So if you like this podcast, please continue to send it to all your friends and family. Like I said, the people who listen, the people that have given us feedback on Apple Podcasts, people that have given us feedback on Twitter, really seem to enjoy it. So hopefully you guys do too. I'm going to talk to you guys again on Monday. By then, we will have the All-Star Game breakdown. Finally, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Team LeBron is going to beat Team Giannis, and I like Devin Booker in the three-point shooting contest. I think he's going to do excellent. And in fact, if you can find the gambling odds, I would say that he has an outside chance of winning the MVP. Not only is on Team LeBron filling in for Damian Lillard, he's also a guy that got snubbed. He also, this is an open secret, big Kobe fan. I think that you're going to see a little bit of Black Mamba in him on Saturday night or Sunday night. So, So let's break it down. Send the podcast to your friends, gamble on Devin Booker, gamble on Team LeBron, and tune in again on Monday when we talk about it. Thank you so much. Talk to you again later.